Hello everyone. Today's topic is quite extensive, so before we start, I'd like to share some small details. Some of you have asked if, besides YouTube, you can listen to my podcast on other platforms like Spotify, Apple, or Google Podcasts. I'll include some links below in the description for you to access on these platforms. Today, I'll share about my reading journey and some experiences I've accumulated to make our reading more effective. For me, books bring great joy in life. I've been passionate about reading for a long time. To put it simply, most of what I've achieved today, whether it's in my career, knowledge, or thinking skills, is largely thanks to reading books. However, in my reading journey, there have been some mistakes. Today, I'll share these mistakes in the hope that it will help you recognize and overcome them, making your reading more effective and enjoyable. I categorize my reading journey into stages. The initial stages are simple, just picking up a book and reading from start to finish without active engagement after finishing. In my younger years, I mainly read adventure books and fiction like Robinson Crusoe or Jules Verne's adventures such as 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea or Around the World in 80 Days. With these books, reading without much analysis was sufficient. However, as I grew up and started investing more in my education, I realized that only reading fiction or fashion books limited my knowledge. The content shifted to professional and skill books. I realized that my previous way of reading quickly led to the loss of the gathered knowledge. The simple habit of absorbing information without active interaction made it difficult to remember details after a few weeks. Recognizing the flaws of this method, I transitioned to the second stage of my reading journey. In this stage, I started reading actively, taking notes, and highlighting key points. I found that this method not only helped me memorize information more effectively, but also formed a habit of paying attention while reading. However, the efficiency was still quite low, about 40% compared to the previous method. Moving on to the third stage, I discovered Kindle. The e-ink screen of Kindle provides a reading experience similar to paper, reducing eye strain. The ability to store highlighted passages in a separate area makes searching easy. At the same time, I applied the minimalism philosophy to my lifestyle, which continued to positively impact my reading habits. I completely switched to using Kindle and stopped buying physical books. Even now, I mostly read ebooks, and any physical books I own are either gifts or intended for others. The fourth stage of my journey came with Amazon's WhisperSync technology, introduced in later Kindle versions. WhisperSync promises synchronization between ebooks and their corresponding audiobooks. This led me to explore audiobooks for the first time through Audible. Audiobooks opened up a new dimension in my learning process, allowing me to listen while doing activities like driving, walking, running, or even eating. The convenience of the audiobook format has greatly enhanced my overall learning experience. On the other hand, while she's listening, it's also the time when I started living on my own, away from home in Australia. In Australia, most people commute using public transportation, as driving to work is rare, especially in cities like Sydney where I live. The distances are quite extensive, and it's normal for the commute from home to the office to take anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes, or even longer for some. During that time, the majority of my peers were walking. There were lush green landscapes, and it was the period when I actively engaged in walking and joined book reading communities on audiobooks. It was during this phase that I discovered a speed reading technique using audiobooks. The walking app allowed me to increase the reading speed, helping me digest the content faster. To practice this method, you can start by gradually increasing the reading speed to around 1.3. Once you become comfortable with that speed, you can gradually increase it to 1.4 or 1.5. Continuously listen for a while before increasing the speed again. Personally, after practicing for a while, I now listen at 1.7 for simpler books and 1.5 for more complex ones. This method not only saves a significant amount of time, but also enhances English listening skills. It's a valuable technique that has proven effective for me and others who have tried it. If you're interested, give it a try. After getting used to higher speeds, you'll find that going back to 1.0 feels unnecessarily slow. In addition to time savings, this approach also contributes to improving English language skills. When I first moved to Australia, I realized my English wasn't as proficient as I thought. Foreigners working in Vietnam often adjust their speaking speed to make it easier for locals to understand. Similarly, in Australia, they spoke at a regular pace. It took me some time to adapt to the differences in accents and speaking speeds. Speaking of my English learning journey in Australia, it was initially challenging, especially in the workplace where I communicated with people from different backgrounds daily. The experience taught me the importance of effective communication and language adaptation. Returning to the topic of audiobooks, from the day I discovered speed reading while walking, my reading habits underwent a transformation. I began consuming a significant number of books, reaching a peak where I read over 15 books in a month. However, I eventually realized I was slipping back into the first stage of reading, where quantity took precedence over quality. To address this, I decided to shift my focus to quality over quantity. I started building a more thoughtful approach to reading, utilizing tools like Audible and Listwise. Listwise, in particular, connects to my Kindle account and synchronizes all my notes, providing me with daily email reminders containing random snippets of my past notes. This automated process ensures that I actively revisit and reflect on the insights from the books I've read, preventing them from fading away. It's a powerful tool, and I highly recommend it for anyone using Kindle and seeking a more organized approach to note-taking and reflection. I will leave the registration link below in the description for those who want to try it. Yes, it seems that they offer a 2-week trial, and after that payment is required. However, the fee is quite affordable, around $5 to $10 per month. Now, if anyone follows my advice so far, I can guarantee that the amount of knowledge you absorb will increase. At least 50 to 60% more, meaning with just a few simple steps from now on, you can absorb 3 times the amount of knowledge compared to the initial stages, just by reading without doing anything else. Now I will continue to share with you a new stage, and these stages are truly crucial for me. If you like, I highly recommend trying to progress through these stages. After this stage, you can choose to continue or not. This stage may take a bit longer, but it's truly worth it. Now, the next steps require you to sit down and work a bit. You need to cultivate simple habits. Every time you read a book, use my map to summarize the main ideas of that book. If anyone is not familiar with using my map, you can search on Google for various tools to help, such as my map. It's straightforward to use. Even if someone doesn't know how to use my map, you can still summarize the book using any text editor whenever you have time. Sometime later, if I have time, I will create a podcast to guide you on how to use my map effectively. Regarding the structure, you can reuse the structure of the books. Each branch can represent a chapter, and within each chapter you note down the most important points in your understanding. The crucial thing is to record it in your own voice. By doing this regularly, you will gradually build a collection of my maps from the books you've read. Personally, I find it very useful whenever I need to revisit specific information. Currently, most of the books I like, I already have summaries. Even for those I read before but didn't create summaries, I read them again to make my maps. In terms of personal experience, this method is very helpful whenever I need to retrieve certain information. Now, let me share the final steps. I've just started doing these, but based on the experiences of those who have been doing this for years, it's considered a very worthwhile step. Personally, even though I'm just starting, I already feel that it brings a lot of value to me. In these final steps, I collect a considerable number of highlights, interesting concepts, and experiences from the books I've read. I gather all these, and imagine I have a pile of bricks. Now, I'll use all these bricks to build a house, a website essentially, where I systematically organize all the experiences and lessons I've accumulated in my life. This website will be structured like a web page when I use Lotion to do this. It looks like a lotion giving links between pages. I'll organize everything according to specific sections in my life, such as professional experience, communication experience, life skills, and many other related sections. Each page will link to another, creating a connection with related topics, notes, or summaries. In essence, it's like I have a focused place where I gather all the experiences, lessons, and insights I've collected. Everything is systematically presented, and I can easily access it. It will be like my personal encyclopedia or the secret to my life. I believe it will bring a lot of value to myself. I've shared my reading journey with you from the stages when I was naive, just reading without taking notes, to the stage where I consumed audio content for a year, reading hundreds of books but not retaining much. Now, I'm focusing more on quality than quantity. Some might say, isn't reading supposed to be simple and enjoyable? Why complicate it with all this? However, I genuinely believe that enjoying reading without a method is a waste. The cost of knowledge is significant, and it's wasteful not to maximize it. Personally, looking back, I wish someone had shared these methods with me earlier. If they had, the amount of knowledge I've gathered would probably be much greater. In conclusion, I hope I've helped you with more effective reading methods, or at least inspired you to read more. Remember, reading is truly beneficial. I'll end this episode here. Thank you for listening. If you find what I shared useful, please share it with your friends and remember to subscribe. See you in the next episode.